Since you started your notary business, strive for excellence. Introducing the book, Notary Operational Excellence by Derrick Spruill. Build your business on a beacon of precision and trust with expert advice. Check out Notary Operational Excellence by Derrick Spruill from Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Books of Million, Bookshop.org, Mobile Notary by DerrickSpruill.com, or download from Kindle today.
Imagine standing at the check-in counter at JFK Airport. Your bags are packed, you've sold your house in the suburbs, and your entire family is just, exhausted but totally thrilled.
Oh, that mix of terror and excitement.
Right, because you are moving to Madrid for this dream corporate relocation. But then the gate agent looks at your residency visa paperwork. They pause, they frown, and they call over a supervisor.
Never a good sign.
Never. They point to your background check and they shake their heads. Your documentation is invalid.
And the worst part is the reason why.
Exactly. Why is it invalid? Because 3 weeks ago, someone removed a single metal staple from the top left corner of that paper just to run it through a desktop scanner.
Just one little staple.
That is it. One removed staple and your life is effectively on hold. Your flights are canceled and your massive corporate merger is suddenly in jeopardy.
It sounds crazy, but it happens every single day.
It really does. So, welcome to Notary Knowledge, the show where we elevate the business of the seal. And it is a fantastic day to be talking about the true value of what we do. The scenario we just described at JFK, that is not an exaggeration, is it?
Not even a little bit. In the landscape of international document authentication, administrative red tape can literally alter the course of a person's life or even a multinational company's future.
Yeah, the stakes are just incredibly high.
They are. There is zero room for error. And that zero-tolerance environment is exactly where the savvy notary strategist finds their most lucrative opportunities.
Which is why today is a Money-Making Monday session. We are focusing on global signatures, mastering the Apostille route.
I love that title.
Right. We are talking about premium processing fees for urgent international needs. Whether you are a commissioned notary looking to scale your local operation, or maybe you are a legal professional trying to understand the hidden gears of global bureaucracy, we have a mission today.
And it's a big one.
It is. We are going to reveal how a standard state-regulated $15 notarization stamp can be transformed into a $500 premium concierge logistics service.
And we are really going to map out the exact logistical chain of command to do that. We are pulling from a vast array of operational blueprints, state-specific fee schedules, federal guidelines from the U.S. Department of State, and high-level business strategies.
We've got a ton of ground to cover, but before we get into the weeds, I want to remind you, our listeners, that if you want to build the foundational skills necessary to even attempt these advanced strategies, you need to visit the Notary Knowledge website.
Absolutely. You really need to encourage yourselves to buy the Notary Knowledge books by our executive producer, Derrick Spruill.
Oh, for sure. They are the ultimate guides for building a resilient business. And for those of you who prefer a visual learning experience, check out our video podcast, No Notary, with yours truly.
And make sure you are also catching the 90 seconds of notary clips on our social channels. We are giving you the tools, but you just have to apply them.
Perfectly said. So let us begin at the foundation. Before anyone can market a premium apostille facilitation service or figure out how to ethically price it for a frantic client, we have to deeply understand the legal framework we are operating within.
Right, because what we are really selling is the translation of trust between two mutually distrustful geopolitical entities.
That is a great way to put it, the translation of trust. So when a client walks up to you and says, I need an apostille, what are they actually asking for in the eyes of international law?
To really grasp that, we have to look back at how dysfunctional the world used to be. Specifically, we have to travel back to the geopolitical climate just prior to the 1961 Hague Apostille Convention.
Okay, setting the scene. I like it.
Right. So if we look at the post-World War II era, you had this massive, unprecedented boom in global trade and international mobility. People were crossing borders, corporations were expanding globally.
But the paperwork was lagging way behind, right?
Exactly. The legal paperwork was stuck in the 19th century. If an American company wanted to open a branch in France in, say, 1958, they had to navigate a suffocating process called the chain of authentication.
The dreaded chain. How bad was it?
Truly agonizing. It was built on the premise that a foreign government cannot possibly know what a valid signature from a local official in Ohio looks like.
I mean, that makes sense. Why would a French judge know what the seal of an Ohio notary looks like?
They wouldn't. So you had to build a ladder of trust, step by agonizing step. The local county clerk in Ohio would have to certify the local notary.
Okay, that's step one.
Then the Ohio Secretary of State would certify the county clerk.
Step two.
Then you have to mail that packet to Washington, D.C., where the U.S. Secretary of State would certify the Ohio Secretary of State.
Oh, wow. And we're still not done.
Nope. Finally, you would have to take that document to the French embassy in Washington, D.C., where a French consular official would certify the U.S. federal official's signature.
That sounds like a complete logistical nightmare.
It was. Only then, after months of mailing documents back and forth and paying fees at 4 different levels of government, would the document be legally valid in France.
So it was just this massive bottleneck that was actively harming global commerce.
Exactly. So, in 1961, a group of nations gathered at the Hague Conference on Private International Law. They recognized that this chain of authentication was totally unsustainable.
And that's where the Apostille Convention comes in.
Yes. They drafted the treaty, which effectively created a simplified, single certificate verification system for public documents used between the member countries.
And how many countries are in this club today?
Today, there are over 125 member countries in that specific treaty. The brilliance of the 1961 convention is that it flattened the hierarchy.
How so?
Well, the member nations universally agreed that if a designated competent authority in the document's country of origin, like a Secretary of State in the U.S., attaches a specific standardized certificate called an apostille, every other member nation will instantly recognize it as legally valid.
So no embassy visits required?
No embassy visits. No consular legalization. It bypasses the entire diplomatic bottleneck completely.
I always explain it to my clients, like airport security. The Hague Apostille is essentially TSA pre-check for your paperwork.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, you bypass the massive, grueling security line, keep your shoes on, and walk right through to your final destination because you have been pre-vetted by a recognized authority.
That is a perfect analogy. But this is where we run into the single largest misconception in our industry. It is a misunderstanding that catches even experienced legal professionals totally off guard.
I think I know where you're going with this.
An apostille does not validate the contents of the document.
Say that again for the people in the back, because that is huge.
It is strictly an authentication of the signature, the capacity, and the seal of the public official or the notary public who signed it. It has nothing to do with what the paper actually says.
Let us explore the mechanics of that, because it is so counterintuitive to the average person. If a client hires me to process an apostille for their university transcript, the government official in the state capital is not looking at the document to verify that the client actually earned an A in macroeconomics.
Not at all. They do not care about the grades. They do not care if the business contract you are authenticating is a brilliant merger or a terrible financial mistake. They are authenticating the messenger, not the message.
That is fascinating. So what exactly is the state clerk looking at?
The state is simply verifying their own internal records. They look at the document, locate the signature and seal of the notary public or the county clerk, and check their database to ensure that specific official held an active, valid commission on the exact date the document was signed.
And then they just verify that the signature visually matches the exemplar on file.
Exactly. That's the entire process.
So let us take this to its logical, extreme conclusion. Let's say someone prints a completely forged fake diploma from Harvard University on their home printer.
Okay, highly illegal, but let's play it out.
Right. They bring that fake diploma to a legitimate state-commissioned notary public. The client signs a statement declaring it is a true copy, and the notary simply performs a standard jurat or acknowledgement, notarizing the client's signature.
Because the notary is just verifying the signer's identity and willingness.
Exactly. Now, if that packet is sent to the state, will the state issue an apostille for a completely fake Harvard diploma?
Yes, they absolutely will.
That is wild.
It is, but it makes sense when you understand the rules. Because the state is not authenticating the Harvard diploma. The state is authenticating the notary's signature.
So the apostille certificate is merely a declaration saying, we, the state, confirm that this notary is real, their commission is active, and this is their true seal.
Precisely. Now, if that client tries to submit that forged apostille diploma to a foreign immigration office, the foreign authorities will likely evaluate the content, contact Harvard, and discover the massive fraud.
But the apostille itself...
The apostille was issued perfectly in accordance with international law.
It is a profound distinction. We are facilitating the verification of the jurisdiction, not the underlying truth of the private text.
Exactly.
But as you mentioned earlier, the TSA pre-check analogy only works for the 125 countries that actually signed the 1961 treaty. We still have a massive portion of the globe that operates completely outside of that treaty.
We do, and that is where things get really complicated. If a country is not a signatory to the Hague Apostille Convention, we're talking about places like the United Arab Emirates, Vietnam, Qatar, or Kuwait, an apostille certificate is legally meaningless.
Really, just a piece of paper to them.
To them, it is just an arbitrary piece of paper attached by a foreign state government. If you send an apostille document to a non-Hague nation, it will be rejected instantly by their customs or immigration officials.
So for those non-Hague countries, we are forced back into the standard exhausting security line where you have to empty your bags at 3 different checkpoints.
We are forced right back into the pre-1961 consular legalization process.
And that is where the premium courier really earns their fee, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Consular legalization requires you to rebuild that old-school chain of trust. First, you get the local or state certification. Then, you must route the document to Washington, D.C. for national authentication by the U.S. Department of State's Office of Authentications.
And we are still not done.
No, because finally, you must physically submit the document to the destination country's embassy or consulate here in the United States for their ultimate legalization stamp.
And dealing with foreign embassies is an entirely different logistical universe. I mean, every embassy operates like its own sovereign island.
They absolutely do. They have their own completely arbitrary fee structures, which can change without any notice whatsoever.
Yeah, some charge $50, some charge $500 for corporate documents.
And the scheduling. Some embassies will only accept document drop-offs on Tuesdays and Thursdays between, 9:00 a.m. and 11:30 a.m.
And if you show up at 11:35 a.m.,
you're out of luck. Try again next week. Plus, some require you to provide certified, localized translations of the document before they will even accept it at the window.
It is a total labyrinth. And this complexity is exactly why our listeners should be paying close attention to the business model here. The average citizen, or even the average corporate HR manager, has absolutely no idea how to navigate this.
They don't. They do not have the time to track down changing embassy requirements or the bandwidth to figure out the difference between a Hague and non-Hague destination.
They just know they need their paperwork accepted overseas so they can move forward with their lives or their business.
They are demanding these authentications, and they were terrified of getting it wrong. That fear, that logistical anxiety is the core of our value proposition as premium facilitators.
But before we can price that value, we really have to understand the first major trap that premium couriers fall into. It is the trap of jurisdictional boundaries, the great state versus federal divide.
This is where so many people mess up. Documents in the United States are strictly, rigidly categorized by their issuing authority. You simply cannot cross the streams.
A state government has no authority over a federal document, right?
Right. And conversely, the federal government generally does not directly authenticate local state documents without prior state certification.
Let us define these categories clearly for everyone listening. State-issued documents include vital records, so birth certificates, death certificates, marriage licenses.
It also includes state court judgments, corporate articles of incorporation filed with a specific state, and any private document that has been locally notarized by a state-commissioned notary public, like a power of attorney or a commercial invoice.
And because those are state-level acts, they must be authenticated by the Secretary of State or the equivalent competent authority in the specific state of origin.
Exactly. If you have a birth certificate issued by the state of Texas, the apostille must be issued by the Texas Secretary of State. You can't take it to Oklahoma just because you live there now.
That actually brings to mind a fantastic real-world scenario from one of our network operators. Let's talk about Carl out in Nevada.
Oh, Carl's story is a perfect cautionary tale.
It really is. So, Carl is an experienced mobile notary. He had a client who was rushing to get their paperwork together for a dual citizenship application in Italy.
High stakes, tight timeline.
Exactly. The client lives in Nevada now, but they were born in California, so they had their original California birth certificate. To save time, the client asked Carl to perform a copy certification by document custodian.
Which means the client photocopies the California birth certificate, signs a sworn statement in front of Carl in Nevada saying it is a true copy, and Carl notarizes that statement with his Nevada seal.
Right, and then they mail that whole packet to the Nevada Secretary of State for an apostille.
And that is a critical jurisdictional failure on multiple levels.
Break it down for us. Why did that fail so badly?
Well, first off, almost every state strictly prohibits notaries from certifying copies of vital records. Vital records are the exclusive legal domain of the state or county health district that issued them.
So a notary shouldn't even touch a birth certificate like that.
Exactly. By attempting to bypass the California Department of Public Health with a local Nevada notary stamp, Carl essentially created a legally invalid document from the start.
And what did the state of Nevada say when they received it?
The Nevada Secretary of State recognized that a Nevada notary cannot authenticate a California vital record. They rejected the packet outright, and the client lost weeks of processing time.
Carl learned a really hard lesson about state sovereignty that day. You are locked into the jurisdiction of origin.
He did. The client had to order a fresh, original certified birth certificate directly from Sacramento, California, and submit it to the California Secretary of State. You cannot shortcut jurisdictional law.
Now, exactly the opposite is true for federally issued documents, right?
Yes. Federal documents bypass the state channels entirely.
Right.
Documents issued by U.S. federal agencies, such as USDA animal health certificates for international livestock shipping, FDA pharmaceutical export certificates, federal court judgments.
And most commonly, FDI criminal history reports.
Exactly. Those must be routed directly to the federal competent authority,
which is the U.S. Department of State Office of Authentications in Washington, D.C. So what happens when a highly stressed, disorganized client hands a premium courier a mixed stack of paperwork?
That happens all the time.
Let's say a corporate executive hands you a locally notarized board resolution, a state-issued certificate of good standing, and a federally issued patent trademark document, and they tell you to just overnight the whole stack to the state capitol to save on shipping costs.
If the courier follows those instructions, they fail the client.
Why? What happens at the state capitol?
The state authority will process the board resolution and the certificate of good standing because they have jurisdiction over the local notary and the state corporation database.
Right, those are state-level documents.
But when they reach the federal patent document in that stack, they will immediately flag it. A state government has absolutely no legal authority or mechanism to authenticate the seal of a federal agency.
So they just reject it.
They will reject the federal document, mail it back unauthenticated, and the client's international filing is completely stalled.
A premium facilitator earns their entire fee in the intake audit simply by separating that stack into two distinct logistical streams, the state route and the federal route.
They're literally being paid to know where the jurisdictional boundaries lie.
Let us explore the state-level route first, because even when you correctly identify that a document belongs in the state system, the states themselves operate under incredibly diverse and complex statutes.
There is absolutely no national uniformity. Our operational blueprints reveal three distinct bureaucratic environments: single-step states, hybrid states, and multi-step states.
Single-step states sound the most straightforward. We are looking at jurisdictions like California and Florida.
The mechanics here are relatively flat. The Secretary of State in a single-step state directly maintains the active signature files and commission records for every single notary public commissioned within that state's borders.
So because the state centralizes that database, the chain of custody is remarkably short.
Very short. If a document is properly notarized by a notary in Miami, the client or the courier can mail that document straight to the Florida Secretary of State in Tallahassee.
The state office looks up the Miami notary in their centralized database, verifies the signature, and issues the apostille. Boom. Done.
But even in a single-step environment, local geography and poorly communicated state rules create massive pitfalls.
Give me an example.
Let's look closely at California. Standard processing by mail to the main headquarters in Sacramento is $20 per apostille.
Okay, $20. Simple enough.
But the California Secretary of State also operates a regional office in downtown Los Angeles to serve the massive population of Southern California.
And that Los Angeles office offers an incredibly valuable service. Same-day walk-in processing, right?
Exactly. For an additional $6 special handling fee per signature, a courier can physically walk up to the counter and leave with the apostille document in hand.
This creates a classic geographical nightmare that our blueprints highlight. Imagine a frantic client living in Fresno, California, which is situated roughly between Sacramento and Los Angeles.
Oh, I see where this is going.
They need an apostille immediately. They search online, see that there is an office in Los Angeles, and decide to mail their vital records to the LA address instead of Sacramento, because it just seems geographically closer.
which results in a complete dead end.
Why? It's a state office.
Because the Los Angeles regional office is strictly built for in-person walk-in service. They do not process mail-in requests.
So if a packet arrives via FedEx to the LA office,
It goes into an administrative holding pattern. It might be rejected and mailed back to Fresno, or it might eventually be forwarded in bulk to the Sacramento office.
Yeah.
Either way, it's adding weeks of delay to what was supposed to be an expedited process.
the client wasted critical time simply because they didn't understand the internal routing rules of a single-step state.
It's a harsh lesson.
Now, if California is a geographical trap, let's look at the legislative traps of hybrid states.
Yeah.
Our primary case study here is Georgia.
Georgia's fascinating because it splits the authority based on the final destination of the document.
Wait, really? The destination changes who you submit to?
Yes. The authority to issue Hague apostilles in Georgia is not directly vested in the Secretary of State's main office. Through a specific legislative delegation, that power belongs to the Georgia Superior Court's Clerk's Cooperative Authority.
Commonly known as the GSCCCA.
Exactly. And the GSCCCA is remarkably efficient. They process documents destined for Hague member nations for a fee of just $3 per document.
Wow, $3. That is one of the lowest fees in the entire country.
It is highly cost-effective. But here is the hybrid trap. The legislature granted the GSCCCA the authority to issue apostilles under the 1961 Hague Convention. However, they did not grant them the authority to issue the standard state-level certifications required for the pre-1961 consular legalization process.
Okay, so if your client is moving to the United Arab Emirates, which is a non-Hague country, and you send their notarized business contract to the GSCCCA along with a $3 check, what happens?
The GSCCCA will reject it. They lack the statutory authority to issue a certification for a non-Hague destination.
So what does the courier have to do?
To process that document, the courier must reroute it to an entirely different government entity. The Elections Division of the Georgia Secretary of State, located at the Floyd Twin Towers in Atlanta.
And what do they get there?
There, they request a Great Seal certification, which costs $10.
It is literally a legislative trapdoor. You have to know the geopolitical status of the destination country before you even choose which building to drive to in Atlanta.
Exactly. But as complex as Georgia's hybrid system is, it pales in comparison to the sheer bureaucratic endurance required to operate in multi-step states.
Oh boy, the multi-step states. We're analyzing jurisdictions like New York, Maryland, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Hawaii.
These are decentralized environments where the state capital does not hold the records of the local notaries.
The state has effectively offloaded the administrative burden. Let us use a video game analogy here.
I like where your head is at.
You are playing a game, and your ultimate goal is to unlock the final boss door to get your prize. The final boss door is the Secretary of State who holds the apostille stamp.
Right.
In a single-step state like Florida, you just walk right up to the final boss door, turn the handle, and walk in. But in a multi-step state like New York, the game will not even let you approach the final boss door until you have traveled to a completely different map, defeated a specific mini-boss, and collected their unique key.
That analogy captures the frustration perfectly. In New York, the mini-boss is the local county clerk.
Why the county clerk?
When a notary public is commissioned in New York, their physical signature card and oath of office are filed in the specific county where they reside or qualified, not in a centralized database in Albany.
The New York Department of State simply does not have the administrative bandwidth to house the physical signature cards of every single notary from Buffalo to Montauk.
Therefore, if a notary in Queens stamps a document, you cannot send that document straight to Albany. Albany has no idea who that notary is.
So where does it go first?
The document must first be physically routed to the Queens County Clerk's office. The county clerk pulls the notary's physical file, verifies the signature against the exemplar on the card, and if it matches, the county clerk affixes their own official certification seal over the notary's stamp.
Effectively vouching for the notary to the state.
Exactly. The county clerk is the mini-boss handing you the key. In New York, that intermediate step costs $3.
And only after the county clerk has attached their seal can the packet proceed to the New York Department of State for the final $10 apostille fee.
Think about the logistical drag this creates for a premium courier service operating in Manhattan. If your corporate client in Manhattan happened to use a mobile notary who is qualified in Westchester County, you cannot simply take the document to the Manhattan County Clerk.
You have to go to Westchester.
Yes. You must deploy a courier to Westchester, wait for their specific processing window, retrieve the certified document, and then submit it to the state level. The margin for delay, lost packages, and logistical friction is massive.
And this highlights why a deep understanding of the Foundational Notarial Act is paramount. Before a document even enters this multi-step maze, the initial notarization must be bulletproof.
It has to be flawless.
Let's talk about a couple of our colleagues in the field who faced this. First, Keisha, a mobile notary operating down in Alabama.
Keisha's story is a perfect example of risk mitigation at the point of origin.
So Keisha was called to a local nursing home by a family. They needed a power of attorney notarized for their elderly father because they were trying to manage some family real estate located in Germany.
And they told Keisha they were going to use a premium courier to get the document apostilled right after she stamped it.
Right. But Keisha arrives at the nursing home, and her gut immediately tells her something is wrong. The elderly father is heavily medicated.
Red flag number 1.
Huge red flag. When Keisha tries to engage him in basic conversation to establish his willingness and basic awareness, which are the fundamental requirements of any notarization, he is completely unresponsive.
And I bet the family got pushy.
Oh, they start pressuring Keisha, saying, just stamp it. We are paying $500 for the expedited apostille service tomorrow. We need this done now.
But Keisha understands her liability as a state-commissioned officer. The premium logistics service means absolutely nothing if the underlying act is tainted.
Exactly. She firmly declined the notarization because she could not verify the principal's basic competence. It caused a scene, but months later it came to light that the family members were attempting an unauthorized transfer of the German assets.
Wow. If Keisha had stamped that document and it had gone through the apostille process, she would have been the primary target of an international fraud investigation.
And we saw something incredibly similar with Fiona up in Idaho.
Yes. Fiona's situation was intense.
It really was. Fiona was called to a private residence, and she noticed immediate signs of elder abuse. The elderly mother was crying, and the son was aggressively looming over her, demanding she sign a property transfer that was destined for a foreign court.
And just like Keisha, Fiona intercepted that abuse.
Yeah.
She refused to proceed, stopped the notarization, and essentially prevented cross-border financial fraud.
The first line of defense is always the notary. You cannot build a $500 logistical service on top of a compromised foundation.
You really can't. The integrity of the seal is everything.
And speaking of the foundations of this business, we need to take a quick break to hear from the sponsors that make Notary Knowledge possible. When we return, we are going to tackle the most dangerous logistical trap in the entire industry, the federal fast track and the FBI background check. Stay with us. Welcome back to Notary Knowledge. Before the break, we mapped out the intense jurisdictional maze of the state-level apostille process. But now we are moving up the chain of command to the federal level.
And that is a whole other level of stress.
Our sources indicate that navigating the federal bureaucracy requires an entirely different level of precision.
Dealing with the state requires precision. Dealing with the federal government requires absolute, unforgiving perfection. And the most lucrative yet highly dangerous area for couriers is processing federal records.
Specifically, the FBI Identity History Summary Check.
Yes.
Why is this specific document in such high demand globally?
Because of the global mobility of the workforce. If you are an American citizen applying for a long-term work visa in South Korea, or maybe you are taking a teaching position in Spain, or you are applying for permanent residency in Portugal.
The destination government wants absolute assurance that you do not have a criminal record in the United States.
They mandate a federally authenticated FBI background check. They won't accept a local police report.
The federal processing for this is handled exclusively by the U.S. Department of State's Office of Authentications, and they charge a flat fee of $20 per document.
Right.
But here is where I want to push back on the operational guidelines, because the core rule in our blueprints feels like a massive contradiction.
Oh, I know the rule you're talking about.
The absolute golden rule of federal processing states, in bold letters: never notarize an original FBI background check.
It is the most violated rule in the industry, and it causes thousands of rejections every single year.
I have to stop you, because this defies the logic of our profession. We always talk about the notary seal as the ultimate fraud deterrent.
We do.
We are state-commissioned officers. If a client hands me their FBI report and I place them under oath, verify their passport, and attach a perfectly executed jurat to a sworn statement confirming they are the subject of the report, I am adding a localized, verifiable layer of human identity verification to a digitally generated piece of paper.
It makes sense logically.
Right. I am making the document more secure. The Spanish government should be thrilled. Why on earth does the U.S. Department of State view my fraud deterrent seal as a contamination that triggers an automatic rejection?
It is a brilliant question, and it strikes at the very heart of how the federal government views jurisdictional sovereignty. You are looking at the document from the perspective of the final recipient in Spain. You are thinking about maximizing security.
Okay, so how is the federal government looking at it?
The U.S. Office of Authentications is strictly looking at the legal chain of custody and constitutional federalism.
Walk me through their logic.
When the FBI issues that background check, it includes the digital or physical signature of the Section Chief of Biometric Services. That is a high-level federal official.
Okay.
Under the Supremacy Clause and federal administrative rules, the U.S. Department of State has the direct, exclusive authority to authenticate the signature of that federal official. They do not need and legally cannot utilize a state-level notary to verify a federal document.
Because a state cannot validate the federal government.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The moment you place your local state notary stamp on that federal FBI report, you have aggressively crossed the jurisdictional boundary. You have added a state-level element to a federal record.
And that breaks it.
Yes. When the clerk at the U.S. Department of State looks at that document, they see a state seal. Their mandate restricts them from authenticating state notaries directly without prior state certification. Because the document now contains mixed jurisdictions, it breaks their internal chain of custody, and they are legally required to reject it.
So by trying to be helpful and adding a layer of security, the local notary effectively detonates the document.
They destroy it. The client has to request a brand new background check from the FBI, wait for it to arrive, and start the entire process over again.
You are literally charging the client for your specialized knowledge to not stamp their document.
Yes. You are managing the logistics of the federal route, and those logistics are brutally strict.
Let's look at the timeline. If you submit a federal document through standard mail-in processing to the facility in Sterling, Virginia, what are we looking at?
The current processing time can stretch to 10 or 12 weeks.
That is a quarter of the year simply waiting for a piece of paper to be returned.
And most clients facing international visa deadlines cannot survive a 12-week delay. Their job offer will expire.
Which creates the massive market for premium expedited walk-in service. Premium couriers partner with boots-on-the-ground agents in Washington, D.C. to utilize the physical drop-off window at 600 19th Street, NW.
But this is not a casual post office errand. The U.S. State Department drop-off window is restricted to a notoriously narrow time frame, 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m., Monday through Thursday only.
Let's talk about Patty, one of our network operators based in D.C. Patty manages these walk-ins daily.
Oh, Patty's life is so stressful.
She describes the sheer anxiety of navigating D.C. morning traffic. If there is a motorcade or a protest or an accident on the Beltway, and Patty arrives at the security desk at 9:05 a.m.
She is completely locked out for the day. There's no grace period.
And even if Patty arrives at 7:45 a.m., she faces the volume restriction. The federal government enforces a strict limit of 15 documents per day per customer or courier company.
So if Patty has 20 corporate patent documents to submit,
She has to split them across multiple days, entirely altering the logistical timeline she promised the client.
and Patty also highlighted the return shipping trap, which is just wild.
Oh, yes. When you prepare a submission packet for the federal government, standard procedure dictates that you include a prepaid, self-addressed return envelope so they can mail the authenticated document back to you. Many corporate clients love using FedEx because they have dedicated corporate accounts. If Patty includes a prepaid FedEx envelope in that submission packet,
The State Department will reject the entire packet.
just because of the FedEx label.
Yes. They strictly and exclusively require United States Postal Service, or UPS, for return tracking. This is rooted in specific federal mailroom security protocols and contract logistics.
That is unbelievable.
If you do not know that specific, seemingly arbitrary quirk regarding the shipping label, the entire 12-week process collapses.
Which perfectly transitions us into the execution phase. We have analyzed the Hague Convention, the state mazes, and the federal traps. But theoretical knowledge is useless without operational execution.
Execution's everything.
How does a premium courier actually manage this in the real world without failing? It requires standard operating procedures that treat client paperwork like high-security, fragile cargo.
You have to build a flawless assembly line. And step one is the intake and audit.
What does that look like?
When a client hands you a document, You do not just throw it in a folder and start driving. You subject it to a rigorous audit. First, you verify the destination country against the Hague Conference database to determine if you are routing for an apostille or full consular legalization.
Right, checking the geopolitics.
Second, you audit the physical format of the document itself.
This is particularly critical for vital records, right?
Absolutely. A birth certificate or marriage license must possess a raised embossed seal or a specific security watermark from the state or county registrar.
So if a client brings you a high-quality, high-resolution color photocopy of their birth certificate,
It is instantly rejected by the state authentications office. Scanned printouts, no matter how crisp the resolution, are never accepted for vital records. The courier must educate the client and pause the process until the original certified issuance is obtained.
okay, so that's format. What else in the audit?
Third, the audit must evaluate the age of the document. This is a hidden trap that catches many unseasoned couriers off guard.
I always found this confusing early in my career. A birth certificate doesn't logically expire. The historical fact of your birth date does not change. Why does the age of the paper matter?
The historical fact doesn't change, but foreign governments view documentation through a lens of extreme skepticism.
Right.
Many foreign entities, particularly immigration authorities and international financial compliance officers, will categorically reject documents that were issued more than 90 to 180 days prior to submission.
Even if the U.S. state successfully attaches a legally valid apostille to them.
Yes, they demand fresh, recently pulled records to guarantee that the information has not been subsequently altered, amended, or revoked by a court order.
So a premium courier checks the issuance date during the intake audit. If the birth certificate was issued 3 years ago, the courier proactively advises the client to order a newly certified copy from the State Vital Records Office before initiating the expensive apostille process.
That is incredible proactive value add. You are saving the client from a rejection in a foreign country months down the line.
Step 2 of the SOP is flawless notarization. If the document is a private contract, a corporate board resolution, or a diploma that requires local notarization as the foundational step, there is absolute zero tolerance for administrative errors.
None. The state authentications clerk will reject the notarization for the microscopic contractions that a standard receiving agency might overlook.
So if the notary uses whiteout to correct a misspelled middle initial,
Rejected.
if the notary's stamp overlaps even slightly onto the signature line or obscures a single letter of the document's text,
Rejected.
if the notary fails to include the exact venue, the specific date, or uses the wrong statutory notarial language like improperly mixing the wording of an acknowledgement and a jurat.
Instant rejection. Your seal and your syntax must be immaculate.
This brings us to step 3 of the operational blueprint, which you refer to as the staple rule. It sounds almost absurdly simple, but violating it has catastrophic financial consequences.
It is the most painful mistake a client can make.
Walk us through the physical reality of the staple rule.
When the Secretary of State or the federal government issues the apostille certificate, it is printed on a separate piece of secure paper. The government authentications clerk attaches this certificate to your original document.
Okay, physically tying them together.
To ensure the integrity of the pairing, they attach it very securely, often using a heavy-duty industrial staple, an eyelet, or a secure metal grommet. The absolute golden rule of document authentication logistics is, do not, under any circumstances, remove that staple.
Never remove the staple. Let's paint a picture of a hypothetical disaster scenario for our listeners.
I know exactly the scenario you mean.
Imagine a high-net-worth corporate client in Manhattan. They have just spent 4 agonizing weeks and thousands of dollars navigating the multi-step county clerk process in New York to get their articles of incorporation apostilled so they can finalize a massive real estate acquisition in Madrid.
A huge deal.
The courier delivers the pristine, completed portfolio to the CEO's desk. The CEO is thrilled. He walks over to the office scanner to email a PDF copy to his legal team in Spain. But the papers are securely stapled together.
And you cannot feed heavily stapled grommeted papers through the automatic document feeder of a high-speed office scanner.
Exactly. So the CEO, without thinking, grabs a staple remover, pops the heavy-duty staple off, runs the loose pages smoothly through the scanner, and then takes a standard plastic desk stapler and staples the packet back together.
Oh, it hurts just hearing it.
What has he actually done to his investment?
The CEO has effectively vaporized 4 weeks of logistical work and thousands of dollars. Detaching the apostille certificate from the original document permanently and irreversibly invalidates the authentication.
But the Spanish authorities won't know, right?
Oh, they will. When the Spanish authorities receive that physical packet, they will immediately notice the secondary staple holes. They will logically assume that the apostille was detached from a legitimate document and fraudulently reattached to a forged document.
So they just throw it out.
They will reject it without hesitation. The entire process must be restarted from absolute zero.
The client has to order new corporate records, secure new foundational notarizations, route it back through the county clerk, pay new state fees, and wait out the timelines again.
Which is why a premium courier mitigates this specific risk by placing massive, highly visible warning stickers on the final delivered portfolio, explicitly instructing the client, do not remove staple or alter binding.
Which leads directly to the final SOP, transport logistics. You cannot treat these documents casually. You must utilize rigid, weather-resistant portfolios to protect the physical integrity of the paper from rain, bending, or damage in transit.
You also must meticulously track every single movement, from the client's office to the county clerk, to the state capitol, to the federal level, and back in a centralized real-time log.
And crucially, you must manage the financial logistics flawlessly.
The government fees.
Exactly. Many state and federal mail-in registries operate on archaic accounting systems. They will outright reject a submission packet if you include a credit card number, a personal check, or cash.
They demand exact amount, pre-printed cashier's checks, or certified money orders.
And the pay lines must be perfect. If the statute mandates make payable to the Secretary of State and the courier writes to the State Department, the accounting office kits it back, tying up the document for weeks over a semantic error.
Premium couriers often maintain dedicated operating accounts specifically to generate rapid, flawless certified funds for these submissions.
Okay, let's take a breath. We have just outlined an incredibly meticulous, highly stressful, anxiety-inducing logistical gauntlet.
It is a lot.
It is a minefield of federal supremacy clauses, rigid staples, specific ink requirements, narrow drop-off windows, and jurisdictional traps.
Well,
All of this intensive labor translates directly into value for the client.
which brings us to the core of Money Making Monday: profit optimization and tiered pricing matrices.
Because apostille processing is fundamentally a facilitation and logistics service, and not merely a standard notarial act, operators are legally permitted to set their service fees at their own discretion, governed by the open market.
You are moving far beyond the state-regulated fee caps for a simple notary stamp, which generally hover around $10 to $15.
You are charging for your specialized logistical expertise, your time, and your execution. Let's look at Lucas, a mobile notary operating out in rural Oregon.
Lucas has a great model.
He does. Lucas occasionally drives up to 3 hours each way to reach a client on a remote ranch to perform a foundational notarization for an international trust document. Lucas clearly separates his regulated notarial fee, say $10 for the acknowledgement, from his massive unregulated travel and convenience fee.
He establishes the psychological premise that the client is paying for the logistics of the transaction, not just the ink on the paper.
This perfectly sets the stage for the apostille pricing matrix.
Let's break down that matrix based on speed, convenience, and geographical complexity. The baseline offering is the standard service.
What does that entail?
This assumes mail-in processing at a single-step state and generally takes 7 to 14 business days. The fee charged to the retail client is typically between $125 and $170 for the first document.
And what are the hard costs for the courier in that scenario?
The state fee is usually around $20, plus perhaps $15 for secure trackable priority shipping both ways. That leaves a net profit margin of roughly 75% to 80% per document. It is a very healthy margin for managing a mail-in process.
But what if the client is facing a hard deadline and cannot wait 2 weeks?
Then you elevate them to the expedited priority tier. This promises a 2 to 4 business day turnaround.
And how do you achieve that speed?
It requires the courier to physically drive to a state or regional walk-in office, like driving from Fresno to Los Angeles, or paying a trusted local partner network operator to do the physical walk-in.
Do the costs go up?
Yes, the client fee jumps significantly, usually to $195 to $265 per document. The net profit margin dips slightly to 70% to 75% because the courier is absorbing fuel costs, parking fees, and walk-in surcharges.
But the gross dollar amount of profit in your pocket is much higher.
Exactly.
And then we reach the pinnacle of the pricing matrix, the concierge same-day service.
This is the high-touch, white-glove service. It involves personal retrieval of the document from the client's office, immediate physical travel to the authenticating authority, and personal delivery back to the client by the end of the business day.
The client fee for this level of dedication is staggering, $375 to $500 per document.
Because you are dedicating your entire operational day to this single client, the margins are incredible, routinely hitting 80% to 85%.
And if the client needs the full, multi-layered consular legalization process for a non-Hague country,
That process takes 3 to 6 weeks, involves coordinating state, federal, and embassy steps, and often dealing with translation requirements. Clients routinely pay $450 to $750 per document for a courier to handle that logistical nightmare on their behalf.
I have to play devil's advocate here and ask the provocative business question. Put yourself in the shoes of the average citizen. Is it really, truly, ethically justifiable to charge a client $500 for a process where the actual underlying state fee for the stamp is only $20? Aren't we just price gouging people for running a bureaucratic errand?
It is a valid question, but it fundamentally mischaracterizes the nature of the service. The client is not paying for a $20 state stamp.
What are they paying for?
The client is paying for the absorption of their anxiety and the mitigation of catastrophic risk. They are paying for your intimate knowledge of navigating a 90-minute drop-off window in Washington, D.C. They are paying for your audit process that catches the expired vital record before it causes an international rejection.
They are buying sleep. They are buying certainty.
Exactly. You are saving the corporate executive from a blown real estate acquisition in Madrid that could cost the company millions in penalties. You are saving the international student from missing a non-refundable flight.
You are saving an employee's work visa from expiring and forcing their family to leave the country, all because of a bureaucratic rejection they would not have seen coming.
When the stakes of failure are that life-altering, a $500 insurance policy to guarantee the paperwork is executed flawlessly is not price gouging. It is a massive bargain.
That reframes the entire value proposition. The value is generated in the flawless execution, not the raw materials of the stamp. But having a highly profitable, intellectually robust pricing matrix is only half the battle.
Right, you need the clients.
You can build the most efficient premium courier service in the world, but if nobody knows you exist, you make $0. How does a premium facilitator acquire clients who understand this value and are willing to pay these premium rates?
You do not acquire them by sitting in a retail strip mall waiting for foot traffic. You have to deploy high-yield, targeted niche marketing. You are hunting for demographics with high-frequency documentation needs and price inelasticity.
Price inelasticity, meaning the client needs it done quickly and flawlessly, and they're not going to haggle over a $300 invoice because the underlying transaction, like a patent filing or a corporate merger, is so valuable.
Precisely. And our strategic blueprints identify the two most lucrative verticals for this service: corporate B2B clients and the international academic sector.
Let us analyze corporate B2B first.
We are targeting multinational corporations, human resource departments managing international hires and global executive relocations, intellectual property lawyers filing patents in foreign jurisdictions, and global trade exporters.
These entities constantly, routinely need articles of incorporation, board resolutions, commercial invoices, and certificates of good standing authenticated.
If a high-powered IP lawyer in Manhattan is filing a critical tech patent in Germany, their firm does not have the billable time to figure out the archaic New York County clerk mini-boss system.
They will happily pay the courier's premium invoice to make the logistical friction disappear.
You build enduring relationships with these law firms and HR departments by proving your reliability, and you transition from being a transactional vendor to their exclusive outsourced authentication partner.
But the vertical that I find truly fascinating, from a volume perspective, is the international academic market. Specifically, we are looking at the massive demographic of international students in the U.S. on F1 visas.
Why is this demographic such a gold mine for Apostille services?
Because of the high-stakes transition they face upon graduation. When these students graduate or when they transition to optional practical training programs, they eventually need to return to their home countries to seek employment, apply for government credentialing boards, or secure residency.
Their home country governments and domestic employers demand cryptographic authenticated proof that the student actually graduated from an accredited U.S. university.
They need their diplomas and official transcripts apostilled.
And there has been a massive geopolitical regulatory earthquake in this specific vertical recently, hasn't there? The industry is calling it the China catalyst.
It is arguably the most significant shift in the document authentication landscape in decades. On November 7, 2023, China officially joined the Hague Apostille Convention.
Which means they shifted from the grueling, multi-step standard security line to the streamlined TSA pre-check system.
Exactly. Historically, the hundreds of thousands of Chinese international students studying in the United States had to navigate the agonizing, expensive double legalization process through the U.S. State Department and the Chinese embassy to authenticate their degrees.
Now, under the treaty, it merely requires a single state-level apostille.
On the surface, that sounds like it would actually hurt the premium courier's business model. It simplified the process, removing the need for the expensive D.C. embassy runs.
You would assume so, but bureaucratic complexity simply evolved. It did not disappear. While the international treaties simplify the high-level authentication, internal Chinese administrative bodies, specifically the Chinese Service Center for Scholarly Exchange and local municipal public security bureaus, enforce their own rigid domestic rules.
Ah, so there's a catch.
Always. They require these newly apostilled English documents to be paired with highly accurate, certified, simplified Chinese translations.
So the premium courier does not just sell a single apostille transaction anymore. They sell a bundled solution.
It is a massive upsell opportunity. You offer the student a comprehensive turnkey package. You coordinate the copy certification notarization of the academic transcript, you secure the state-level apostille, and you partner with a trusted certified translator to provide the requisite simplified Chinese translation.
You solve their entire administrative burden in one transaction.
And to capture this academic market, our blueprints suggest a brilliant ground game strategy, aligning with DSOs or designated school officials on university campuses.
DSOs are the dedicated staff members whose entire job is to advise international students on visa compliance and graduation transitions.
DSOs are highly motivated to help their students succeed, but they are often overwhelmed by the administrative volume.
If a premium courier can educate the DSOs on the apostille process and provide them with clean, easy-to-read, co-branded materials explaining the new Hague rules, the DSOs will organically refer their entire graduating cohorts to your service.
You can even elevate this by offering what our blueprints call a registrar concierge service, because an original university diploma cannot usually be directly apostilled. A school official, like the registrar, has to sign a letter or a copy certification, and that specific official signature has to be notarized.
The premium courier can arrange to physically go to the campus registrar's office on a designated day, perform the notarizations on site for a batch of 50 students, and then transport the entire batch straight to the state capitol.
It completely removes the logistical friction for the student, it streamlines the process for the university registrar, and it generates massive batched revenue for the courier.
It is the classic timeless business model. It is like selling pickaxes during a gold rush. You are not out in the river trying to find the gold yourself.
You are strategically setting up a highly efficient premium shop right outside the entrance to the mine, the university registrar's office, and you are providing the exact legally required tool that every single miner needs to safely get their wealth back home.
It is a scalable, highly ethical strategy that provides genuine, stabilizing value to a demographic that is navigating an incredibly stressful life transition. You are selling the translation of trust and ensuring their hard-earned academic credentials are mathematically verified across borders.
What a phenomenal discussion today. Let us pull all of these complex threads together. We have covered an immense amount of ground on this session of Notary Knowledge.
We really have. We started by exploring the historical foundations of the 1961 Hague Convention, dissecting the critical difference between the streamlined apostille process and the grueling consular legalization reality for non-Hague nations.
We analyzed the strict, unforgiving jurisdictional boundaries, mapping out the distinct lanes for state and federal documents, and understanding exactly why a local notary seal on an FBI background check triggers a catastrophic federal rejection.
We navigated the intricate state-level mazes, identifying the traps of hybrid systems in Georgia and the multi-step county clerk gauntlets in New York.
We emphasized the necessity of flawless standard operating procedures, from the initial intake audit regarding document age to the absolute, non-negotiable sanctity of the staple rule.
And finally, we explored how to monetize this logistical mastery through strategic, tiered pricing matrices and how to capture high-yield markets by targeting corporate law firms and the massive international academic demographic following the China catalyst.
It truly is a remarkable blueprint for transforming seemingly mundane administrative red tape into a thriving, high-margin concierge logistics business.
But as we wrap up this session, I want to leave our listeners with a final forward-looking thought to ponder. We have spent this entire discussion focusing on the physical realities of the business. Physical paper, wet ink signatures, heavy-duty staples, raised embossed seals, and frantic morning drives in D.C. traffic.
But the technological landscape is shifting beneath our feet.
It is modernizing rapidly. Between 2016 and 2020 alone, over 11 million electronic apostilles were issued globally. Governments are slowly, but inevitably, transitioning toward digital verification.
So the existential question for the savvy strategist to mull over is this: how soon until the physical paper, the rigid weather-resistant portfolios, and the county clerk mini-bosses become entirely digitized?
When this entire bureaucratic maze inevitably migrates to the blockchain or to centralized cryptographic digital registries, how will you, the premium facilitator, pivot your business model?
When the difference between a state and federal document is just a line of code on a screen, how will you maintain your value and your premium pricing in a paperless, frictionless world?
That is the defining question for the next decade of our industry. The value will always be in managing the complexity, but the nature of the complexity is about to change.
Absolutely. Do not just be listeners of the knowledge, be doers of the knowledge. Take these blueprints, audit your local state laws, and start building your premium service today.
And remember, we want to hear from you. Email your questions to Derrick@derrickspruill.com. We will try to answer as soon as possible at the end of our shows.
A special thank you to our team. Executive producer Derrick Spruill, graphics by Eddie Montes Travis, music by Thomas Bynum, and produced by Magnificent Workz Business Solutions.
And of course, our lead writer and resident strategist. This is Notary Knowledge. Until next time.
Are you an aspiring notary looking to join millions of other notaries? Start your journey with the Notary Public Foundation by Derrick Spruill. This essential guide provides the step-by-step process to becoming commissioned in your state. Don't stumble into the role. Walk into it with confidence. Grab your copy of the Notary Public Foundation by Derrick Spruill on Amazon today.
Time to